Welcome back to Battletoads 2020. So
You
yeah,
don't feel old.
I've already come to the terms that I'm an old fart, Dej. So at this point,
Okay.
Okay. If I can bring up,
Why did
one
you leave
issue I
this
do-
loading screen hanging?
Because it looks cool, okay?
because it gave me so that I would have time to say welcome back.
I guess.
I'll listen to him later.
Anyway, I think one issue I do have with the beginning is the weird thing where the story can't seem to decide, like, so did they actually do their ventures beforehand and they were just stuck into that dimensional thing for 26 years?
It seems
or
like
were
it,
those 26
yes.
or were those 26 years part of their ventures? That's one thing the story will
No.
and
They
forward
they
on,
already
and it
had
makes it
their
confusing.
adventure, but they got trapped afterwards.
Maybe it's
That makes it weird.
maybe the underground bunker is its own underground world simulation thing. Because remember, they said it specifically was it a sim.
Because the Dark Queen knows who the Battletoads are. They are arch enemies, so it's not like.
Because remember, Joe, but they specifically stated it was a simulation bunker, meaning they were in a simulation. They were basically in the Matrix, so they were in a fake world, basically.
Well, that's my point. It's like, well, sometimes the story seems to imply that, some of their old ventures were because of that, and they were never heroic, whereas other bits seem to suggest that, no, actually, their ventures did happen.
No, they were heroic. It's just that everyone forgot who they were.
Yes, I get that. What I mean is that the story can be confusing about that at times.
Not that
I think you'll have to point to that when it happens.
That's fine, I guess. I mean, the story doesn't take itself seriously, so neither do I.
But, look. Like I said, it's not even that big an issue. I mean, honestly, that's more of a nitpick thing. Trust me, there are much more bigger things to actually rag on in this game than that.
There you go. Alright, so, okay, so one of the big things about this game is that the beat-em-up sections are actually the lesser parts of this game, to be fair, because they're very typical. Whenever the game goes on more platforming stages or special mini games or special, that's when the game's at its best, when it's just trying to break off the monotony. Because unlike Streets of Rage 4, this game beat 'em up gameplay is just average, basically.
I'm curious, Pedro. Back in the original Battletoads, which did you prefer more, the beat 'em up or the platforming?
Well, it's kind of hard because I hate it.
Where he could actually get past when he was growing up.
The beat 'em up is actually something more manageable.
Yeah, the beat 'em up
for me is literally stacked against you.
The beat 'em up, that's the thing, Joe. But there's so actual little beat 'em up in that game when you get right down to it, really, because most of it is just a terribly designed platforming that is meant to piss you off.
I mainly ask this because I wonder, what do you consider the main identity of Battletoads in regards to, like, what do you feel like
It's a
should have
90s
been done? Now, okay.
It's a game with a 90s cartoon tone, with multiple gameplay styles. One of the primary ones being a beat 'em up. There you go.
I think the reason that this can be a bit disconcerting about the beat 'em up being the weakest element is like, well, yes, much as those other games that the Battletoads were in may not be memorable, the Battletoads kind of made more name for themselves in the beat 'em up department, like between the arcade game, Battletoads and Battlemaniacs, and even the Battletoads and Double Dragon crossover here and there. I recall those much more for their beat 'em up aspects more than anything else. So having the beat 'em up aspect be one of the weaker ones in this game is odd.
Sure, I can see that. You can tell, however, you can tell this is supposed to be a successor to the original NES game, which is why it includes the different gameplay styles and stuff. All right, so now we have a puzzle.
Did it ever get a physical release or no?
What does Deji? Sorry.
Did it get a physical release or no?
This game? No, I don't think it did.
No.
So everyone who called GameStop was all for nothing.
Wait.
Already
hold
went
on,
there,
wait,
Dad.
Actually, Dad's no, because you can actually order digital material from GameStop. So technically, that could have worked still.
So yeah, the idea behind that puzzle was just construct a path that will allow you to bring the electricity from one side to the other.
But yeah, like Pedro mentioned, sadly the beat 'em up is something that gets a bit repetitive here. Lack of mix-ups and moves, unfortunately, do contribute to that.
The problem to make that's the problem in order to make a good beat 'em up. You need to find a good balance of how to prevent things from being too repetitive.
Incidentally, believe it or not, audience, literally the day after we finished our Streets of Rage 4 playthrough, the DLC was announced. Why do I mention this? Well, the DLC has mentioned that it is going to include stuff like being able to customize movesets of characters here and there, and now even stuff like freaking swordfish are now usable weapons here and there.
Does it actually add a run button?
That still seems to be up in the air. But yeah, honestly, I do feel like they could have maybe have tried to differentiate Zitz, Pimple, and Rash a bit more in their movesets here and there. I mean, especially because, like Pedro mentioned, you can switch them up here and there, so that wouldn't even be too much of an issue here and there if you needed them for specific areas. I mean, I'm not going to act like it's bad, but it does feel rather basic, unfortunately.
Have I missed anything?
No.
There we go. You're supposed to go through the third dimension.
And I gotta. There you go. Into the third dimension. There you go.
Hello?
Don't you love
This
Donkey Kong
music
Country?
is,
Well, it is a rundown theme park, Dwibs.
Yeah.
well, I'm surprised it have like, scratchy sound to it's really old. Touched it in years.
So Pedro, who's your favorite Battletoad?
Rash.
Some things will just never crash, and some will just have some really
Rash and Diku.
Well, Crash doesn't
Why?
have. Well, Crash doesn't.
Why?
Well, Crash doesn't have cool 90s sunglasses.
No, so he has
Except
cool
when he
shit.
rides a bike.
Well,
I guess.
True.
Sure.
And he has kicks. Those are sneakers. In case you don't know.
Oh, okay.
There's also a combo
now
bar,
going back-
and it keeps increasing the more you continue your combos. Basically, it indicates how, basically, as long as you keep the bar going, your combos will continue, and you can rack up combos.
Oh, yeah, classic stuff.
Yeah. Yes, Jova, go ahead.
I was gonna say, like we mentioned before, the character in-game animations are pretty good, especially.
Yeah, it's just the cutscenes that look
definitely
flashy.
making use of them.
It's weird because like the original teaser trailer said when they revealed this game back in 2018, or was it 2019? Whatever.
2018, I think.
Whatever. The point is, yeah, they said it's hand-drawn HD sprites, which they are. Yeah, as you can see, yeah, these sprites definitely look very fluid in their animation. It's the cutscenes that, like Jova said, look flash animated. It's weird. Like I'm guessing they had to cut costs somewhere, and they figured, let's make the animation on the gameplay fluid. That's more important, which I can understand.
Before we get chased by Pichu with angry pitchforks, yes, I know, Flash animation can be good, as My Little Pony Friendship is Magic showed.
And
That said-
wasn't Foster's Home technically Flash, or was it Toon Boom?
Was there ever a
Not from what I recall. Here's the thing, though.
Sure
To
wasn't
use
Flash.
Flash well, to use Flash well, you need to know what you're doing. The reason Flash gets a bad rap is because,
Ooh,
well,
another
the way
puzzle.
most people use it is for animation that looks cheap, sadly. And this, unfortunately, well, if it is using Flash, unfortunately, it has fallen victim to that as well. Which is ironic because, here's the thing, from what I've seen, the general consensus is that most people seem to prefer the story over the gameplay of this game. And trust me, that's with all the hits and misses that the story and the writing has. I guess it sort of is... Yes?
I was gonna say, since we're on the topic of Flash, one of my favorite shows is made in Flash. The animation isn't anything to write home about, but it's like it makes up for good writing and characters.
Oh yes, good writing can save terrible animation. There's a reason people still like to
It's
come
totally
back to
wrong.
stuff like...
mostly?
Well, I mean, there's a reason people still come back to shows like Transformers Beast Wars or even Reboot. No. Beast Wars still does have its notable
Well,
fan
again,
base. And
I know. I'm just saying I can't watch it because of how bad the animation is.
And again, Hoodwink.
I understand.
Hoodwink made $100 million, and that looked like it were made in my back garden.
Hoodwink definitely. Okay, Hoodwink definitely was most well known for its writing. Like the animation, even for
I don't
when
know. I think all those I think people will remember it for the nightmares they suffered from that kid dancing thing.
You know what's amazing, Dwibs? The sequel arguably has more nightmare feel of how terribly that was rendered. Yeah,
I found out that they made a sequel. I'm like, what?
Get this, Hoodwink 2 actually looks worse than the original Hoodwink.
And it had a bigger budget.
And guess what? It was a worse movie.
What did they spend? What did they spend that money on? Did they spend it on
Celebrities.
I got it. I got it.
I mean, remember
The Tio. I got it.
sequel.
I got it, Tio.
Shit.
The composer of Hoodwink 2 was the guy who did the music for Doctor Who. From
Seriously?
At the end of Capaldi's era.
Seriously.
Henry Gold. I think they spent too much on trying to price him from Doctor Who for a bit just to do the music.
What a shame.
I mean, the music was all right in that movie, actually. I mean, it wasn't anything great, but I mean, if there's one thing you can say about Murray Gold, it's that it definitely fits the movie.
Oops.
As opposed to the music Doctor Who has.
Come
now.
on, Pedro. Let your brother come back to you.
All right. Go ahead.
Be a nicer older sibling.
Actually, he's a younger sibling. I'm the older one.
Be a nicer, younger
Well, that's why
sibling.
that's why I said be a nicer older sibling, because you're.
Oh, right. Oh, okay. I misheard you.
I will refrain from the obvious age joke. With that.
Okay, what does that mean, that participation award?
The one that
basically-
the one that did worse in the beat 'em up section too.
Okay.
It's basically the game's way of saying, yeah, you suck compared to the other one, but we'll give you.
Sure.
pretty
I've
good."
seen other games that does that kind of cheeky way, so I
For
just
as much as
want
For as much as I don't like some of the self-deprecating humor of this game, I do admit the disses towards the player stuff is actually one of the better ones I've seen. Again, this game in and of itself feels like the Jekyll and Hyde of games. One minute you can be praising it, the next you'll be hating it. For one
Also,
reason or
Java,
another.
Jekyll and Hyde is a much terrible game compared to this.
Oh, you know I didn't mean the game, but you're right.
I'm pretty sure he was mentioning the book.
I know, but it was too easy to not capitalize on that.
Too easy.
Also, we're
Revenge
finding
of the Mummy.
also we're literally finding sandwiches right now. So
Yeah, using the power of the mummy, I see.
I guess people.
Thank you, Brendan Fraser.
Okay, I also seen another preview special move where Pimple turns into kind of like a werewolf, so I wonder if that's his quirk. He loves
Don't you
old
see?
monster movies.
Oh, he can also turn into a train as well in this game. But maybe Pimple is supposed to represent the dark universe that actually was a hit in this universe
Sure.
and didn't die.
Yeah, sure. I'll be honest. So even if the Dark Universe didn't get past the movie, it probably would have only made to the third installment they gave him.
Man, how many times did they try? They tried doing Dracula Untold, right? And then that failed. And then what was the other one before the Mummy?
No, the
was
mummy
no
was.
one.
The mummy was. Okay,
That's
that's the
the-
thing that they then did.
hold on, Theo. I have to explain this. Okay, so now we have to do some hacking. Yeah, the move. We have to
I
move.
don't know
we
how
have
you're
to-
going to explain it.
Well, yeah. Hold on. Okay, so we can check the instructions. And we can also. Okay, so here's how it works. We have to put in. There you go. See, one of us can control and stop the red squares from moving, so that the other can go by. There you go. Hold on, give me a moment. There you go. See, now that one on the top stopped when I stepped on it. Me and my brother are right now. This is a blind playthrough, by the way, and we're trying to figure out how this works. There you go. See, now that stopped. There you go. So that's how it works, basically. There you go. Our failure basically shows this. So basically, we have to take turns and keep moving from square to square.
I guess you could say, Pedro, it takes two.
And you have to hurry up, I guess.
Yeah. No,
Wow,
that
this hacking system is everything.
that being said, Teo,
seriously?
the game gives you an option to just auto-hack
Jesus Christ.
and just bypass it.
It's Spider-Man PS4 all over again.
And I still get an achievement for it.
Look, all I'm
Guys,
saying is...
it's like with Nintendo's auto thing. You can just easily say, no, I don't.
Parks and recreational violence. Ha ha ha.
No, wait, all I'm saying is if you create a section that's probably not good, maybe you should try to make it better so you won't have to deal with that.
Oh, okay. To be fair, that hacking minigame was perfectly fine. It's just that we bypassed it just because we...
Well, I'm not saying it was your and your brother's problem, Pedro, but I say, again, it shows a lack of confidence if you're
it's
so
like
afraid.
If I go by that, shouldn't half of Mario games
let me... Can I please finish, Dwibs? Here's the thing, Dwibs. The difference is that in the Mario games, when you do use the autocomplete thing, you don't properly get any stars or, the proper thing for the collectathon that you will need for later levels here and there. Sure, you can technically use it to clear the level, but you won't get the stars or whatnot from that zone here and there, or the other completionist stuff here and there to get it as well. So there is definitely a penalty for using it that way. So it's not just an automatic freebie in that sense. It's more so for if like a little kid is playing and that kid is really having trouble, so he can go through it and that little kid may not really care as much about the collectibles or, getting the extra ending or whatnot because, you can't advance to the other levels without that here and there. That is definitely the main difference here. Like, Nintendo, I feel, do have the good middle ground where, yes, they do include a mechanic similar to that, but there is a penalty for using it. That is how I feel it should be done if you really
most games that include that kind of thing these days usually have that as a trade-off with they disabled achievements, which if you're a person that doesn't care about that means jack squat.
Yeah. Whereas with Nintendo, they normally have it apply more so to actual in-game stuff. In which case, yeah, you want to get that stuff, you gotta complete the level properly.
So
they're not just gonna let you win without actually putting in the work.
So I'm guessing, Teo, of all three remasters, 7, 8, and 9, you prefer the one that Final Fantasy 9 did it, where if you used some of the more...
Actually, you already told me about this, and I already told you that as far as I know, the PC version doesn't really disable them.
Oh, well, the PS4 version does, I can tell you that.
But regardless, and I forgot if I actually told, but I honestly believe that not necessarily, cheats that allow you, for example, to speed up the actual speed of a game, technically I believe can work properly because, again, you're not technically having an instant win button on that front. You're just making it a bit more easy if you find that the pace of the game too slow for you, like say in Final Fantasy 12. But instead having automatically from the get-go on and off switch about invincibility mutilates whatever experience a newcomer can have, because at any point, if a player, is not maybe invested into it, instead of dropping the game, we're like, oh, okay, I'll just do this because, who cares anyway? Again, if it's something that instead the game maybe reward you with that, like say beat the game once and you unlock the cheats, so you can potentially experiment with that or replay in a more comfortable way for you, I can actually dig that idea more. But again, even the option from the get-go is the least way to attract a new audience, because essentially you're inviting people to not play a game the way it was supposed to be intended.
I think what also, as Teal mentioned here, is like, well, sometimes having a mechanic like that does suggest that you aren't that confident in your own design.
Like I also explained, take an example, Bravely Second. I don't know if I already was in the first one, but Bravely the Second, instead of having an on and off switch about random encounters, gives you an actual slider to customize you that.
Yeah, the first game did that too.
That should be the golden standard for every RPG, because again, the whole idea of random encounters are bad, we only need the enemies on the map feels too
generalizing?
No. It feels too much of a hard cut on that. I do believe with that kind of slider, you allow customization for the player, and instead in having a person who wants to enjoy the game more without having to, remove the thing from the get-go and to rework it.
Well, here's the thing, too. Here's the thing, too. See, here's the thing. Here's how people like me see it. Here's the thing. The fact that I have to have a slider to make that thing more comfortable for me, that in itself tells me that the mechanic is flawed and outdated. And ever since Chrono Trigger 2, I've always... it's just most people just see the way having enemies on the map as just an overall superior way to go about it, because it's just like the whole random encounters thing just feels outdated for a lot of people. And yes, I know what you'll say. It all depends, because it's mostly because people don't like just being just like. And yes, you can say slider decreases that. Well, the fact that I have to use a slider to make the technique to make the random encounters more bearable, that in itself tells me that the mechanic is flawed by its concept.
Again, a better example: Spider-Man PS4, because those science lab stuff that Peter does, like, you can skip it. I was like,
not really the same.
We were
not really the
talking
same
about something
thing.
else anyway. But the point I was trying to make was not necessarily was instead compared to games that have the on and off switch, like say Final Fantasy 8 and 9.
Sure.
I guess to be fair,
if you really want to put cheats in your game, might as well put them with a kind of degree instead of doing this kind of work.
To speak on devil's advocate, Pedro, I wouldn't say that the mere presence of a slider suggests that random encounters are automatically bad. And don't get me wrong, I myself am not really a fan of random encounters either. But I wouldn't say that the idea is inherently flawed here and there, just that it is something that, I do feel like it's best left up to how much each player wants to work with it. Granted, them simply hating it does not automatically make it bad, but it is something that can be tweaked here and there.
Now, if it's something like battle speed up, I don't know why anyone's complaining about that.
Oh no, I'm not. Like I mentioned, like
I saw someone legitimately complain. It's like, why do you guys get annoyed with a battle?
Like an objective problem with Final Fantasy 9 is its slow pacing, mostly because of how it was programmed for the PlayStation 1. So an actual speed up options for that, actually makes benefit the game without allowing you to instantly win on that round. Same goes for Final Fantasy 12.
There you go.
They did it.
Legitimately. Also, that's another thing. Might as well talk a bit more about. As a question about this game, I've seen also in some previous level from the previous part where you can collect those yellow. Oh, what's the English term?
Diamonds.
Sorry.
Diamonds.
Call them diamonds.
Yeah, let's go diamonds. What are they used? What are they from? Sorry, what are they for? Just collectible purpose?
That's the thing too.
Power-ups?
Remember, this is a blind playthrough. We collected a couple of them. I still don't really that much an idea of what the heck they do. I'm guessing.
Fine, let me search.
Maybe they're for an achievement or something.
Look to me like they feel your stat card thingamabobs.
Plot twist, they kill you upon touching.
Well, that's
already disproven because Pedro's been collecting them left.
But did you see, Joe? This is another form of commentary on video games, on how sometimes they have the item, they have like a bogey item, look exactly like a regular item just to trick you.
Not every game needs a meme, Kadweebs.
Trust me. Okay. You want to talk about mechanics people hate? That one was mentioned. Yeah, people absolutely love that one. You Final Fantasy 2.
Depends, Jova. Like I found some kind of morbid appreciation to it. But what I mean to Dweebs is that a game like this, a beat'em up, doesn't really need it. For example, the Mimi Cuties for Kid Icarus Uprising were actually a nice addition.
Yeah, they were.
You see, I like that game with that game in control. That
too. Sakurai did put also the slide in terms of difficulties for both Smash and Kid Icarus Uprising.
I don't know how to feel about that because I just prefer the normal easy to hard mode. I don't want to. I died. Well,
Sucks to
looks
be
like
you.
the difficulty scaled down.
So what will we have to say about that? The fact that we have to put a slider on the difficulty means the game was designed badly.
Not really.
Nah.
That's not really.
No, it's just personal preference.
So anyway,
How long
sliders could
is
be
this
good depending
game
on how you
part?
do.
That's exactly the thing,
Yeah.
too. Like I said, like sometimes these things go on for longer. That's the big problem. One of the big problems I have with this game is actually its pacing. The levels are bigger than they need to be a lot of times.
let me put it like this. At least with the original Battletoads, the levels were paced better. They were controller-crushingly hard, but paced better. Better than this at the very least. They weren't... Okay, here's the thing, Dids. They're remembered for being hard, but they were never really that long.
No.
Except for... No, not even that one, actually.
See, here's
they
the
were
thing,
never
Jova.
really long.
Here's the thing, Jova. The levels in the original Battletoads were small. What made you take long was because of how many times you were dying. That being said,
Pretty much.
I'll still take this over
Yeah.
what the original game did, because the original game
Oh,
was just.
definitely. What I'm saying is like, well, I think part of the reason we see this as repetitive is because the levels go on for so long with pretty much no variation to the formula.
Yeah, it's like you did not need to do
Well,
that
the puzzle-
security thing
the-
4 times.
Yeah, the puzzles supposedly are the variation. The problem is that it's just the same 2 puzzles repeated.
Not
Okay, I
only
want
that,
to say
It's
this.
like- It's like
The
Blaze hate Dix's love.
For me, the repetition in this comes. Sorry, go on. The repetition in this for me comes more in the form of a scenario, because when it comes to a beat 'em up, I'm fine with the repetition in terms of type of enemy that appear, and different challenges that may be posed. It's here is despite the problem is that the type of environment that you're in doesn't look that visually stimulating.
let's
Like
compare this.
think about the previous. Okay, for as bad and unbalanced as it is, the previous the NES Battletoad game had different kind of environments. The surface of the planet, the actual caves looked more different than just a standard cave. Then you have the tubes, the layer of the Dark Queen, and so on. Here, this particular theme park, as soon as you enter inside, it looks unappealing to the eye, for lack of a better term. It's
think-
weird in contrast with what the models actually look like. But go on, Joel.
Let me put it this: if you took out the BS difficulty, Battletoads could maybe have been considered a very good game. The problem is just the BS difficulty here and there. This one is sort of on an opposite end of the scale here, where yes, stuff doesn't feel BS, but unfortunately it commits a lot of kind of rookie mistakes, like dragging out the levels too long, making them feel sometimes too samey here and there. Stuff that the original Battletoads avoided. It's like, hey, if we could combine this with the original Battletoads and, cancel out the errors made in them, like, shorten down the levels of this game, take away the BS difficulty of the original, you could have had a pretty sublime experience here. It feels almost like they were trying to do everything the opposite of the original Battletoads. And I do get that mentality for some things, but not everything. More to come in the next part.
See you then.
See,
Yeah.